Renewed Iraq violence stir worries of insurgent push. A spike in attacks suggest militants still capable of striking back. It's been a season of jarring flashbacks in Iraq. A new spate of major suicide bombings, including more than 145 dead over 2 days of bloodshed, capped by a blast Friday outside a Shiite shrine. The spike in attacks since March suggest suspected Sunni insurgents are still capable of striking back hard and recruiting new fighters, even as the Pentagon increasingly tries to shift its attention to a increasingly volatile Afghanistan. The renewed violence also brings wider questions about the ability of Iraqi security forces to control a resilient insurgency led by Al-Qaeda in Iraq, and how that could possibly influence the U.S. military withdrawal timetable. The next step calls for American forces to leave bases inside cities, theoretically by the end of June. Echoes of Vietnam. And it is similar to what happened in Vietnam. Remember? It could be. In Washington, the top U.S. military commander for the region, General David Petraeus, told a House panel that attacks in Iraq will persist for quite some time. So, how do you know when you've won in Iraq? And what is there to win? Could this be similar or likened to what happened in Vietnam? As soon as American troops pull out, well, somehow we've seen this story before, haven't we? He said some of the recent suicide bombings may be linked to a network of militants from, so he says, Tunisia, brought in to replace dwindling ranks of Iraqis willing to carry out such attacks. The general cited some successes in Iraq, but cautioned that progress continues to be fragile and reversible. Overall violence around Iraq is significantly below the levels in past years, yet the tally since March appears to reflect an upswing or a new push by Sunni insurgents. There's been more than a dozen significant bombings or suicide attacks in the past 2 months, including a series of 5 blasts in 4 hours in Baghdad on April 6th that left at least 37 people dead. Attack on mosque. On Friday, at least 60 worshippers were killed in twin suicide bombings at Baghdad's most important Shiite shrine. A day earlier, the bloodiest single day in Iraq in more than a year, at least 88 people died in suicide blasts in central Baghdad, and at a restaurant filled with pilgrims north of the capital. The aftermath of the blast Friday were scenes that many in Baghdad had hoped would never return on this scale. But, of course, it has. So, in essence, in reality, Iraq is not really all that stable, is it? All the gains are totally reversible. So Baghdad had hoped that it would never get this bad again. like deep pools of blood, dozens of limp bodies scattered in the dirt and crumpled against walls, survivors wailing, and many of the estimated 125 wounded crying for help. "It is just like a massacre took place," said one witness. "Where are the security precautions that the security officials are talking about? Can Iraq security forces actually take control of Iraq after the Americans leave? Once again, remember what happened in Vietnam after the Americans started pulling out. Yes, remember. April is already the deadliest month in Iraq this year, with at least 349 Iraqis killed in war-related violence. Suicide bombings, about half the deaths for this month, have not taken such a toll on the Iraqi population since February of 2008. Once again, and when they stand up, they're always falling backwards, falling back down, not really able to go forward, not able to progress. Casualties have been increasing since January, which had been the least deadly month since May 2005. But that's changing. Yes, going backwards again. The Pentagon's top Middle East policy advisor said that there are current signs of the wheels coming off the security situation in Iraq. Yes, again. The Pentagon's top Middle East policy advisor said there are current signs of the wheels coming off the security situation in Iraq. That's definitely going backwards, isn't it? The attacks in Baghdad take a special toll. Security in the capital is essential to keep Iraq's government functioning and project some sense of stability. Residents also had slowly started to gain confidence, but the worst days could be over as they watched stores reopen and crews dismantle some of the concrete blast barriers. In March, the Insurgent umbrella group believed linked to Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State of Iraq, announced a new offensive called Good Harvest. Assessing the strategies and strength of Iraq's insurgency is notoriously difficult. Many various factions, including Al-Qaeda in Iraq, are believed to wage attacks, and any level of coordination is unclear. Yet the timing and locations of the attacks, especially key sites in Baghdad, draw links to the Pentagon's plans to hand over most urban security roles in approximately or about 3 months. The insurgents are trying to send a message, said the director of Global Security.org, which follows security and defense issues. They are telling everyone, he said, that the Americans are pulling back and the Iraq security forces are going to have to deal with us now. So that will remain the big question as the U.S. military increasingly steps to the sidelines. Anyway, yes, echoes of Vietnam, and just like in Vietnam, remember, Yes. And once again, it could be like that. It's going to be very tough to be able to leave Iraq. Anyway, all these things are connected to the end times transition days. And the transition is ongoing day by day.